Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Namahum Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prajarane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane. Then, no, there's a whole bunch of them. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So 9:30, there's no Sanskrit shloka here. Oh, it is there. Okay. Devanagari is not here. So 9:34 was the last verse. So then it should be 10:1. Right? These glasses are not somehow or other cooperating with me. Yeah. So Srimad Bhagavad Gita Adhyaya 10 Shloka 1. Gita Shastramidam Punyam Yaf Patet Prayata Puman Vishnor Padam Avapnoti Vayashoka Adivarjita Gita Dhyayana Shilasya Pranayama Parasya Cha Naiva Santi Hi Papani Purva Janma Kritani Cha Malanir Mochanam Pumsam Jalasnanam Dine Dine Sakrit Gitambasi Snanam Samsara Malanashanam Gita Sugita Kartavya Kimanyai Shastra Vistaraihi Yaswayam Padmanabhasya Mukha Padmad Vinisrita Bharatamrita Sarvaswam Vishnor Bhaktrad Vinisritam Gita Gangodakam Pitva Punarjanman Avidyate Sarvo Panishado Gavo Dogda Gopalanandanaha Partha Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdham Gitamritam Mahat Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva Eko Mantras Tasya Namani Yani Karmapyekam Tasya Devasya Seva. Gita Mahatmyam. Okay. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Bhuya Eva Mahabaho Shunu Me Paramam Vachaha Yatteham Priyamanaya Vakshyami Hitakamyaya Padapataha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Bhuyaha, again, Eva, certainly, Mahabaho, almighty armed, Shrunu, just here, Me, my, Paramam, supreme, Vachaha, instruction, Yat, that which, Te, to you, Aham, I, Priyamanaya, thinking you dear to me, Vakshyami, say, Hitakamyaya, for your benefit. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Listen again, O mighty armed Arjuna. Because you are my dear friend, for your benefit I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained. Purport. The word Bhagavan is explained thus by Parashara Muni, one who is full in 6 opulences, who has full strength, full fame, wealth, knowledge, beauty, and renunciation. Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavan, is Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. While Krishna was present on this earth, he displayed all 6 opulences. Therefore, great sages like Parashara Muni have all accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now Krishna is instructing Arjuna in more confidential knowledge of his opulences and his work. Previously, beginning with the 7th chapter, the Lord has already explained his different energies and how they are acting. Now, in this chapter, he explains his specific opulences to Arjuna. In the previous chapter, he has clearly explained his different energies to establish devotion in firm conviction. Again, in this chapter, he tells Arjuna about his manifestations and various opulences. The more one hears about the Supreme God, the more one becomes fixed in devotional service. One should always hear about the Lord in the association of devotees. That will enhance one's devotional service. Discourses in the society of devotees can take place only among those who are really anxious to be in Krishna consciousness. Others cannot take part in such discourses. The Lord clearly tells Arjuna that because Arjuna is very dear to him, for his benefit, such discourses are taking place. And that's the end of the purport. I hope that's the last adjustment.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's a bit of a distraction, you know. No, it's okay. Has to be done. Has to be done. Wow. So let's go through the words. Hita kamyaya. Hita is benefit, right? In Hindi, this word hit. Hita, Samskrita bhashya, a, e, u, vowels, swaras, right? Vyanjanas and swaras and vyanjanas. But in Hindi, Bengali, Gujarati, and many North India, they cut off that And as further north you go, they'll say Krishan, not Krishna. And if you say Krishna, it's not Krishna, it's Draupadi, Strilingam. Draupadi was called Krishna because she was black. Black is beautiful because Krishna is also black. Ganasham. Like a cloud. Gana is a cloud. Sham is the color of the cloud when it's in the rainy, what do you call it? Monsoon season in English, but in Sanskritam, what is it? Vrishti, Varsha Ritu, in the season of rain. At that cloud is Ganasham. So when we say black is beautiful, we don't necessarily mean a material body being black. In India, you have all shapes. I mean, all shades of black, right? Some are very dark, some are very light. But we're not talking of the material pigmentation. We're talking about something spiritual. You may say, well, if something is spiritual, why does it have a color? Why does it have a material color? Well, what we say, or not we say, Gita says, Urdhva Moolam Adashakam Ashvatam Prahuravyayam But Urdhva Moolam, when you say Urdhva, the Moolas are actually roots. Roots go down. So Urdhva Moolam, how is it possible? So it means that everything in the spiritual world is the reverse. This material world is the reverse of the spiritual world. Reflection. Like the swimming pool here. You'll see the tree, but you'll see the leaves down, the roots up. Urdhva Moolam, same thing. So this material world is a reflection of that world. How do we know all these things? From Gita. We don't know. Nobody can do that. Nobody can do that. But because Vedas say Ishavasya Sarvam, right? Ishavasya Upanishad, Ishopanishad is in the Yajurveda, Shukla Yajurveda Samhita. It's most of the Upanishads are not in the Samhita. Some people in India say there's only the Samhita, and Brahmana, Aranyaka, Upanishads have been changed. Most of the Brahmins and some Vaishnavas, all of the Vaishnav Sampradayas, and mostly all the smarter Brahmins who are Shaivas or Shaktas or whatever, they're not Vaishnavas. But they believe that Vedas means Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka, Upanishad. So Sarva Upanishado Gavo Dogda Gopalanandanaha. We read that Krishna is milking the Upanishads and feeding it to Arjuna in the form of this Gita Upadesh. Sarva Upanishado Gavo Dogda Gopalanandanaha. Partha Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gitamra Vitam Mahat. So the Upadesh of Gita is a synopsis of the Upanishads. And Upanishad synopsis Gita says, Krishna declares to Arjuna, Aham sarvasya prabhavaha. Everything comes from me. So he is the Mula Bhagavan. So that's said here also. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Prabhupada comments, Supreme Personality of Godhead. is saying, Bhuya eva mahabaho, shunume paramam vachaha, yatteha priyamanaya, vakshyami hitakamyaya. I will tell you, Gita Upadesh, for your benefit, spiritual benefit. So, we have a material body, and the material body is going to go away. Doesn't matter how great the personality is. All the great personalities came and went. And we will also come and go. And we have a few years here. And we want to enjoy all these opulences of the material world. Actually, people were living very simply in India, isn't it? Before this present, what do you call it? Industrial revolution. It was agrarian. Prabhupada Maharaj used to say that the ideal lifestyle is the Indian village system. We grew up in urban, Bombay is an urban place. Chicago, I grew up in an urban place. This is an urban place. But the villages, system in villages was a much different system than, still it's there. It's being destroyed by the industrialization of India. And this industrialization of the world means it's actually a very lonely type of life. In the village system, excuse me, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu protested that Chand Kazi was a Muslim government, Nawab Hussain Shah. And the officers of the government, magistrate, judge, today's judge or magistrate, was called a Qazi. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took 100,000 people to protest that the Qazi had stopped the kirtan, then Qazi told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that you are like my nephew. I know your father very well, Jagannath Mishra. So that village relationship, everyone knew everyone else. And in this big city, you don't know who's living next door. Yeah. Of course, we are in an apartment complex where we made a lot of friends just by walking around, because it's a much closer quarters. It's a much closer quarters. Oh, those friends are all Bharatiyas. They're all Indians. Actually, there's one lady who we made friends with who's a local, elderly lady. But Prabhupada didn't have a lot of words of praise for the Western life. Tell you the frank truth. And we're his disciples. So naturally, we are going to, whatever he taught us, what about life and how to live your few years that you have here. Because when you're young, you don't think you'll get old. But when you're old, you wonder where did it all go? Where did the time go? So what is the real benefit? Real benefit is spiritual benefit. If you have accumulated a lot of material assets, but still you have to leave them all. Doesn't matter how big your bank balance is. Prabhupada used to talk about that bank balance. The bank balance may be lakhs and crores, but can't save the soul from punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Only punya can save you. And Krishna says in Gita, prapya punya kritan lokan. Those who do punya kritan, kriti means action, karma. Punya kritan. If you do some punya, then you'll get a, better body in the material world. And if you eradicate all of the papas, mokshayashyami masucha sarva dharman parityaja. Mokshayashyami means no janma, punarjanma naiti, right? That's what's the verse? Punarjanma naiti. Abrahma bhuvanaloka punaravati Arjuna. No, it's my God, forgetfulness. I think it's punar yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajanti ante kalevaram tam evaiti kontne sadatan bhava bhavita anta kale chamam eva smaran muktva kalevaram. No, it's not that also. I'm forgetting. So Punar, anyway, Krishna says you won't be born again. And Antakale chamame smaran muktva. By remembering me at the last moment, you get mukti. You get moksha. And punarjanmana vidyate. There's no more birth. So this is promised by Krishna to Arjuna in Gita in several places. So the real aim, moksha, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. 4 Purusharthas are there in Vedas. And the first one is missing. Dharma Shikshanam, Gurukulam. That Prabhupada propagated a Gurukula system. And we didn't study in the Gurukulas. And what do you study in the Gurukulas is in the Bhagavad. Because Krishna and Balaram went to Gurukula. And they studied with Sandipani in Avantika, Ujjain. It says Vedas, Upanishads. This is in Dashamaskanda, 45th chapter, 33, 34, 35, 36. Dashamaskanda, what Krishna and Balaram studied. Vedas were memorized. Then Upanishads. Logic and reasoning, anvikshikim. Anvikshikim, nobody knows this word nowadays, not popular. Upanishads, you've heard. Vedas, you've heard. System of studying Vedas is still in India. We may not have it fully, but there are thousands of Brahmins. Used to be Brahmin, Kshatriya, and Vaishya, because the Kshatriyas, Krishna and Balaram were Kshatriyas, apparently, although they were living with Nanda and Yashoda, who were Vaishyas. But when they came back to Deva, after killing Kamsa, then Vasudeva and Devaki sent them to Gurukula in Avantika. So as Kshatriyas, they went. Vaishyas went. Brahmins went. Yeah. Hare Krishna. So dharma should have been learned. Then after learning that, artha and kama. So how to revive this system? That was the puzzle. And it's still a puzzle. Still a puzzle. It's not easy. So we're following something, but we're not following fully. We're following something. And at least if we become sattvic, right? Urdhvam gachanti sattvasta. So this is that vakshami hita kamyaya. What Krishna is telling Arjuna for the benefit of human beings is for their benefit, hita kamyaya, the desire to benefit humanity. So it may be said, well, if Krishna is, bhakta vatsala, he's inclined towards his bhaktas. And if every jiva is actually a bhakta, then why are they suffering being born as plants, birds, You know, there's other animals, insects, snakes. 8,400,000 species. And you have to go through that whole chain, one after the other. Automatic, the Atma is put from one yoni to the other. Karana guna sangasya sadasad yoni janmasu. Why? The explanation of Acharyas is that the jiva wanted to enjoy separately from Krishna and not serve Krishna. So the jiva came here. There are two different concepts, though. Some say the jivas were with Krishna and then they came. But Krishna said, Yad gatva vinivartante tadhama parama, Yad gatva nanivartante. If you go there, you don't come back. So how did they come back? Once having gone there, gatva, having gone there, right? Nanivartante, they don't come back. Tadhama paramam mama, that's my supreme abode. We have a faith that there is a supreme abode. Whether we will reach that supreme abode or not, we can't say. But we have faith that if we follow these instructions in Gita, we can reach that place. We have faith. We know that all the material, whatever variety of pleasures in this world, or what do you call it, inventions, yantras, yantra vidya, the fan is running by electricity, the lights are running by electricity, this internet is by electricity. Camera is functioning in the laptop and in the telephone. Oh, technology. And you get good money serving the world of technology. Infotech, good money. But Atma, okay, Artha is required. And Kama, we need to eat. That's the first Kamana. Sense gratification, you have to eat. Without eating, you can't live. Without food, you can go for a month or 2 months or even longer, but you have to have some liquid. If you stop drinking, you may not last a week. You may not last a week. If you actually stop drinking. And I've done 6 days of fasting with only water, but you have to have water. 6 days is not a lot. Ambarish story, right? How many days? 48 days? Anyone remember that from Bhagavatam? No. Huh? A year. Durvasa went all over the universe and came back. And it was a year. And he drank water. And then Durvasa got angry. And then suddenly Sudarshan Chakra was chasing Durvasa.
No, actually, he was a fiery demon.
A fiery demon.
Yeah, then he was chasing him.
No, he was throwing a demon at Ambarish. And Sudarshan Chakra came to protect Ambarish. So fasting, you need to eat, you need to drink. Otherwise, body will go away. And body will go away. This is the thing. So who is preparing for that? So students of Gita prepare for that. And Krishna consciousness, you chanting, hearing Shravanam, Kirtanam, right? Navada Bhakti. So what's the time frame here? It's 8:02. 15 more minutes. Question and answer is better, I feel. What is this?
This is the verse only. Abrahma Loka.
Oh no, that's okay. Acha Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravatin Arjuna Mamupetya Mamupetya tu Kaunteya Punarjanmana Vidyate. Okay. Brahma Bhuvana Loka. So that's any planet you go up to the planet of Brahma, which is the highest planet in the material world, Brahma Loka. You still have to come back to this earth planet. How is that? And Punarjan, but Mamupetya tu Kaunteya. If you come to me, Punarjanmana Vidyate. Okay. So that's the aim, to go to Krishna. That's what Prabhupada talks about in the purport. So the trick is to always think of Krishna, which is not easy. Krishna to Arjuna asks, how can I do that? No. Yudhyasva madanusmaran. Fight thinking of me. Yudhyasva, for Kshatriya, fighting was dharma. So Varnashram dharma, you may fight. If you're a Kshatriya or Brahmanam, you may teach. Patana, yajana, dana pratigraha. These are the 6 activities of a Brahmin, but patana was main. And that study was lifetime. Lifetime teacher. And Vaishya was business, trading. Paricharyatmakam karma shudras chapi swabhavajam. Serving others, shudra. So, sway karmanya abhirataha sam siddhim labate naraha. That's also in Gita. If you perform your swakarmas, then you can attain the highest destination. Sway karmanya abhirataha sam siddhim labate naraha. Naraha, men. Men can attain perfection by performing their karmas. Then there's one after that, right? Swakarman, no. Some siddhim labate naraha. Well, that was it. My God. Sway karma abhirataha samsiddhim labate naraha. And the other one, Swabhava Jena Kaunteya. Nibadda Swena Karmana Kartum Nechasi Yat Moha. Boy. Sarvakana. These are all very similar instructions in the end of Gita. Shreyan Swadharma Vigunaha. Sway karmanya. Swakarma niratha siddhim yatha vindanti tatchunu. Yatha pravritti bhutanam yena sarvamidam tata. These Brahmana, Kshatriya, Visham, Shudranam, Chaparam Tapa, Karmani, Prabhibhaktani, Swabhava, Prabhavair Gunaihi. And then the different karmas are described by Krishna. And he says, if you follow your own karmas, and then he praises bhakti. Siddhim Vindanti Manavaha. I'm looking for that, but I'm not. It's right here, and I'm missing it. Anyway, I don't know why I keep missing that one. Siddhim Vindanti Manavaha. It must be before all of this. Oh, no, it's Yatha Pravritir Swakarmana Tamabhyarchya Siddhim Vindanti Manavaha. By worshiping the Lord, right? Who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. So Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra is described. And then Krishna says, Yatha pravritir bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam swakarmana tamabhyarcha. By performing those swakarmas and tam abhyarcha, by worship of him, siddhim vindanti manavaha, men can become perfect. So the aim of human life is to become perfect. So Krishna's system in Gita is varnashram dharma. You have to follow that. So we say Daiva Varnashram, Daivi Varnashram, because everybody should be a bhakta of Krishna. But even if they're not bhaktas, they can get perfection if they follow their own karmas. And if they worship Krishna, they become bhaktas. Swakarmana tam, that Ishvara, abhyarcha, worship. Siddhim vindanti manavaha. Men can become perfect. How to do that? Yeah. Question.
So I was just wondering, when you say our duties, so it is there in Shastra that in Kali Yuga everybody is born as a Shudra. So should we consider ourselves as a Shudra, or should we go with our caste system and act accordingly?
All along there was a family tradition. In the beginning of Gita, Kula Dharmascha Shashvataha. Arjun is telling Krishna that if I fight and kill my relatives, then we'll destroy the family tradition, because there will be widows. Pradyushanti kulastriyaha. If the women in the family have nobody to protect, if the husbands all died in the battle, then who will protect the women? Some other man will. See, Hindus, they won't remarry a woman with children generally, right? Isn't it? Am I right or wrong?
No, it's not like that. But
It's not like that. The majority is like that. There are now exceptional cases. Because I also run a marriage, the matrimonial newsletter. And recently, and in the 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know, women who have children, they want to remarry. And they approach me. And I send them the quotations from Prabhupada, do not remarry. But Western ISKCON devotees, some of them may be watching because this is broadcast on Facebook Live. Yeah, in India, there are some people who marry women who, in Gujarat, I don't know, but it was very strict that if a woman became a widow, she wouldn't remarry, even if she didn't have children. I know cases like that. So, I think recently some movie actor died and his wife, that captain in the army, Vikram Batra, he's been glorified on social media. He fought in the Kargil war 20 years ago. Was that it? And his wife said that he was my husband, I won't remarry. That was the Vedic system. Wealth in some cases, but usually 13, 14. So even today, there are many communities in India where they marry them like that. And then what is it called when they go to the husband? There's a gona, gona. Then later on, when she's physically matured, she's already married, she goes to the husband. So you see, these traditions were followed in the communities in India because the rajas, evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu. Why are they rishis, the rajas? I asked this question before, I think. Because those rajas studied Vedas. Aryan is someone who studies Vedas, not Hitler said, blue eyes and blonde hair, and he didn't have blonde hair or blue eyes. It was, some invention. This is Kali Yuga. This is a time of adharma. In the midst of adharma, there is some people following dharma. I mean, Prabhupada's whole endeavor of prachar was to get people to follow dharma. Isn't it? You can say, well, it's Kali Yuga. Why should we bother when everybody is an adharmi? We were ordered by our gurus to do it, so we do it. Coming here, how many miles was it? 40 miles? Huh? 30 miles. We passed restaurants. The parking lots are jam full. Nobody here eats at home, it seems. They eat at home, some people.
Friday evening.
Huh?
Just Friday evening.
Oh, Catholics.
No, I'm saying today is Friday evening, so people love to
People go out on Friday evening, right? No, Catholics, they used to fast from meat and fish on Friday.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they would be kind of vegetarian. I don't know the whole thing because I'm not from a Catholic background, but I remember hearing this. But yeah, I mean, killing an animal here for food, they don't, well, we didn't kill the animal, but you're eating the animal's flesh. So you have that, papa, you have to suffer. That's not taught here. It's not taught in India now in the big cities, in the modern educational syllabus. That's why Prabhupada condemned modern education, and ISKCON is opening schools in some places. And who asked me, shouldn't we open schools? And Prabhupada said that this modern education is a slaughterhouse of the mind. He was against modern education. So, this institution is actually meant to revert the society to a Vedic society, but can't do it by force. We don't have the money, we don't have, then you'll say, well, you're extremists, you're terrorists. But we're not, we're idealists. And the world is not ideal in our view. And to change it, it's a mighty struggle. And we are in the United States, but you're all from India. Where is the local people here today's program? Even on Facebook, maybe on Facebook there'll be some. I'm a local, but I migrated to India. And people, my accent, हिंदी में बात होते हैं, प्रवचन हिंदी में दे सकता हूँ, कोई तकलीफ नहीं है, कोई कष्ट नहीं है। पर आज का प्रवचन अंग्रेजी में हुई। But Vedic culture, the question was, this is Kali Yuga, so why should we follow? Then why should we preach? Then why should we read Gita? And can throw it out. Why are we wasting our time? But it's a struggle. It's difficult to train the people in Dharma. You can't kill everyone. Even if you were the most, extremist of extreme, kill everybody, right? That's Islamic extremists. And most of the Muslims of the world are peaceful people, isn't it? Most of the Muslims are peaceful. But Islamic extremism says kill everyone. So, it's a kind of a madness, insanity. But Prabhupada kind of joked like that also. We'll take over the world and we'll tell everybody to chant Hare Krishna. And if they don't, bang. There was one time he said, he didn't propagate that. Then they'll say, well, you're extremists. But we have a faith in the teachings of Gita. And we see that the activities of most of the people are, according to the teachings of Gita, wrong. And their souls will suffer. The body may not suffer. Ravana suffered at the end, but he enjoyed like anything. Only he couldn't enjoy with Sita. Sita is Lakshmi Devi. But he had, the ideal wife is, one of them is Mandodari, the wife of Ravana. How is that possible? But that's one of the ideals of Vedic culture, that Mandodari was an ideal wife. And there are other examples. So everyone has a certain dharma. Sanatan dharma means we should learn how to live properly, but can't impose it. We can't impose. So Prabhupada and his guru print books, influence the people through books. And some people have been influenced, no doubt. But there's also the problem of deviation. Change the meaning of the book or don't accept it fully. The funny thing is, if you don't accept it, you should say goodbye, go. A lot of people left. When I first joined this ISKCON in Chicago, 1973, so many people came and left. So many came and left. I was a chota bacha, I was younger than my son. I was 17, 18. 18 I completed in the temple. I was 17, completed, 18 running. And 18 completed, 19 running. I was in ISKCON Chicago, 1973, 48 years ago. Seems like yesterday. Yeah. Many people came and left. So Prabhupada said that's not so surprising. It's surprising who stays. Now, a lot of people did stay. A lot of people means actually not that many. If you see the whole world population, it's not that many. And a lot of people have also expired who we knew. Some I didn't know. I was wandering around on Facebook and I came across some devotee's mother expired. She must have been a devotee. And by the influence of Prabhupada's teachings, you can say there are others. People came from India also, no doubt. But in this country, the words good karma and bad karma are spoken every day by everybody. They don't know what is bad karma, actually, because they're all non-bad people saying that. Kukarma. Yeah, that's bad karma. Kukarma is bad karma. You know, the people are eating non-veg food and saying, you know, in their hand they have a non-veg sandwich and saying, you know, there's a lot of bad karma going on. You know. And so, you know, they haven't understood fully. Marrying a woman with children, Western devotees, I've seen my godbrothers and non-godbrothers couldn't understand that. How do you teach that? And see, when Prabhupada came, they weren't even married also. He said, at least be married, you know. Those were the hippie days. I call them hippie days. There's no more hippies now. There are, but not like those days. There was a mass dissatisfaction with the way people were living. And they had that idea of going into a rural, agrarian type of a life. And very few people took that up. Some people took it up. I'm talking about outside of ISKCON. And Prabhupada taught that, you know, that this was the ideal life. And the devotees should have communities where they live outside of the urban area and do farming and take care of cows. And that's what New Vrindavan was supposed to be. There's a movie. You saw that? Spiritual Frontier? Did you see that movie? I think I told him about it. No, none of you have seen it. It's on YouTube. Spiritual Frontier. I showed that movie to Prabhupada. He had already seen it before. But I happened to, in Bombay, in Juhu, August of 1976, I had a, you know, like this laptop, but there was no laptop in those days. But they had made a briefcase projector, 8mm film. You know this 8mm film? Gone. A tiny film. And the big movies were shot with 72mm film. So it was much bigger. And they had spent a lot of money on the film. Now it's all digital. There's no film anymore. You know, not needed. So Prabhupada, that movie was actually, Prabhupada is not in the movie. But one of his leading disciples, who is no more in this world, and who left ISKCON in disgrace, unfortunately. A very sad story. But he was saying, Prabhupada told us to live off of nature's beauty and the cows. And New Vrindavan was a big Goshala. And they had a lot of cows. And they were famous for making sweets and paneer and all that stuff. Sweets was very famous. It's a tourist place now. There's no community like that. Yeah, they have a few cows. But to make a community, some in India, some ISKCON devotees are trying that in some places. Some are doing it in ISKCON and some are doing it independently. So, and there's nothing wrong, I feel, because Grihastha is supposed to be Swatantra Grihastha, independent. But yeah, to think of Krishna, we say, okay, chanting, reading Gita, Srimad Bhagavat, especially Dashamaskanda, Krishna book, Krishna Leela. That's how you think of Krishna. And the philosophy of Krishna Bhakti. But yeah, because of Kali Yuga, there are going to be failings. People cannot, you know, there's a gap between the ideal and the reality. That gap is 5,000 years old. You know, the Bhagavad says that when Krishna left this world, Krishna Swadamo Bhagate, you've heard this verse? Dharma Jnana Adi Bisaha. Dharma and Jnana went with him. There's no Dharma now. But actually there is Dharma. Just like in India, people won't marry a woman with children, for instance. Or there are Brahmanas who study Vedas. Thousands of them. But you don't notice it because, well, they're still in villages and towns. There's institutional gurukulas. ISKCON tried. I think there's one functioning in Mayapur. Otherwise, the other schools, they're there, but not like that. You know, Kaler Dosha Nide Rajan, right? Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults. So while Dharma does exist, the forces of a Dharma are stronger because of the age. Some people don't agree with that, but that's our Bhagavat says like that, so we accept that. Bhagavat says that. Gita says, yeah, another question, yeah. Right, because she was devoted only to Ravana. She was not attracted by anyone else.
She's not Ravana. Last Ravana returned Sita also.
She told Ravana to give Sita back to Ram. She had the good qualities.
Very chaste.
Right. Sati Stri. So these things are taught in India. In the Hindu families, these things are taught. The culture, that it's an ancient tradition. Doesn't mean everybody is perfect. But by comparison, there's a world of difference. It's really different. Now you say, well, except for Gujarat and Bihar, alcohol is sold everywhere. In Bengal and Orissa, everyone eats fish. Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they don't eat fish, but the rest of the people eat fish. The pujaris, you know, I was watching Jagannath Rath Yatra live from Puri. And I attended twice, 82 and 84. 40 years ago, 35 years ago. But you look at those pujaris and the daitas, they take Jagannath and all of them eat fish. All of them means there must be some who don't. I mean, some of them don't. But the majority we understand at home. But for Jagannath in the temple, they'll never cook that. They won't cheese, this mirchis they won't use. Chilies they don't use, right? Black pepper, coconut. Jagannath Prasad is very famous. You have to sit on the floor, you have to have a banana leaf. They won't give you. The pandas who bring you the food from the Chappan Bhog from Jagannath, you have to sit down. Now people wear pants and shirt. In Kerala, you cannot wear pants and a shirt in the temple. Chadar only. Chadar and dhoti or lungi. Lungi means without panchakacham. Those rules were there. Those rules were there. And the tradition was carried on in the families. Families followed all these traditions. Now to get the Malechas and Yavanas like us to follow those traditions. Because we had no such traditions. And some of the people, they don't want to leave and they don't want to follow the traditions. Because they never knew what those traditions, even, I don't know all of them also, probably. Grihya Sutras were there. When you introduce yourself in Vedic culture, there's a system where you announce, right? Chatusagara Paryantam Go Brahmanebhya Shubham Bhavatu Abhivadaye. I want to introduce myself to you. So, what is it? Agastya. So, depending on your Gotra, Agastya Mahindra Mayobhaveti Triashaya Triparvaranvita. So then there are different gotras, right? Koshalya Gotra. I have a Rigvedi guru. So he was Koshalya Gotra Ashvalayana Sutra. So Ashvalayana, Bharadwaja, Apastamba, there are different Griya Sutras. And these Griya Sutras, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and for Shudras, there's no Griya Sutras. There's only Grihastha Ashram. And all of the other sanskaras and how to, but we're not following that. We're not following it. But that was the system. They had to, when they would announce themselves that what sutra they're following, what is their gotra? Koshalya Gotraha, Ashvalayana Sutraha, Rigveda Antargata. So in the Bhagavatam, in the Pratama Skandha, first canto, it's described that Vyas divided one Veda into 4 and gave it to different rishis for giving it to their disciples, and that whole system exists today. Guru Parampara, Veda Parampara. Bhagavat describes the Veda Parampara. And so along with just Veda mantras, there was Griha Sutras, how you should in your home life behave. So behavior. Time is up, or we still have more questions? Abhishek is starting. Yeah, one more question is there.
In 10.1 that we read today, says discourses in the society of devotees can take place only among those who are really anxious to gain Krishna consciousness. Others cannot take part in such discourses. So is it just for neophytes or for devotees as well?
Well, any devotee and a neophyte also. See, those who are not eager are in the restaurants eating meat at the moment, every day, opening wine bottle every day. You go in the shopping centers, meat, and you can't. Is there any market without the meat? That means Indian Patel Brothers type of shops. Even they're having eggs now, but not meat. But you see the people here. All the restaurants they go to are non-veg. Pigs and cows are slaughtered like thousands and thousands. And just it's been going on for centuries. Then if you come to devotional life, so you're a devotee at that. You're not doing these tamasic things. Papachar, you gave up the papachar. So sometimes someone new comes, and if they're sincere, they'll give it up. And you know, like good karma and bad karma, there are people who have become vegetarians. You know, today I wanted to cut a fruit, and I knew it's going to take 15, 20 minutes. So I turned on internet on an iPad, and there was a documentary, and I didn't know who is this, some young girl documentary. She's a famous singer, very sweet voice. And, you know, she's become huge success. And she wears a Christian cross, you know, so I thought, you know, she's got to be Christian. Then I looked on the Wikipedia. It says she was raised a vegetarian. You would think that the Christians are all non-veg, but it's not like that. But I think it's part of this influence of Prabhupada's books. They've been distributed so widely, and many people, you know, have understood that non-veg is sinful, killing animals. And this girl is a supporter of, you know, ethical treatment of animals and all that. Not ISKCON. But something sattvic at least, right? It's a paradox, because actually they use very bad language also. Slang language. So it's a khichdi type of Some influence is there good, Gunagrahi, you take the good. You know this Gunagrahi, you've heard of that, right? You look for the good qualities. So slowly, if the people are becoming vegetarian, we have to say it's something good is happening. But they couldn't come to hear they're not interested in hearing about Krishna. If the more we preach, they may someday, that's a hope, that this Malechas and Yavana society will get converted to bhakti. But you have to do prachar to get that, and it's a challenge. Now, since Prabhupada came and disappeared, and then there's 2-3 generations, at least a couple generations have come up. So here in the US, who's going to carry into the future this ISKCON movement? Doesn't look like a lot of locals are up to the task. Doesn't look like. Now maybe I'm wrong. But I mean, this is being discussed by some devotees. Who's going to carry the torch forward? So it's a practical consideration. Prabhupada's desire, his guru's desire, preach in English. English is Malecha Bhasha. The language of, what is a Malecha? Malechati means wrong, a mistake. And Yavanas were the Turks, Prabhupada wrote. Greeks and Turks. These words came to describe them because they didn't follow Vedic culture. And that meant Europeans, and then they were tribals. If you go back in history, 2,000 years ago, all were, tribals there, no civilization, right? The Vedic civilization was well established in India. So they think they're Eurocentric thinking, that the cradle of civilization is in Greece and Rome. You've heard this, right? No? You haven't heard that? Yeah, in India, nobody knows what they teach here. But what they teach, your kids that are growing up here are being taught that. That actually human civilization started in Greece and then Rome. But for India, nobody will believe that. The Vedic civilization is thousands of years old. So then you say clash of civilizations. Then what's the true history of the world? Those that are really inquisitive, they find out that the Vedic history is the oldest, Vedic civilization. But to imbibe that Vedic civilization, tough. It's very, because there's no tradition. No tradition. So even if the tradition in India, Prabhupada said that the dead elephant, he used this example. Dead elephant is still valuable. Even the elephant is dead, but you can take the tusks. You can take, this thing, that thing, whatever. So even if the Vedic civilization, there's no Raja now, there's no Yudhishthir in India. There's elections, and elections are manipulated by money. Because who can advertise, vote for me, vote for me? Somebody who has money. And that's the wrong system. But it's going on, can't stop it, right? Can't stop it. So circumstances may be unfavorable due to Kali Yuga. But our acharyas desired, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu desired, spread this Sankirtan Andolan, Harinam Sankirtan. Let's hope for the best. There's, anyway, I won't say too much more. I want to remain on the level of idealism. There are practical difficulties everywhere. It's not easy anywhere to run ISKCON. And ISKCON is a means to the end, which is to become Krishna conscious. Krishna consciousness is not. Prabhupada defended ISKCON like anything, but the Bhagavatam and the Gita are the basis of Krishna consciousness, Krishna bhakti. So even if the institution went away, it's still functioning rather successfully in many places. But even if history is such, who knows what will happen in the future. But the Bhagavatam and the Gita have been spread so far and wide. And the hope is that, people read that and they actually, bring about a change in their own life according to the commentary that Prabhupada gave, his purports. Of course, the lectures, conversations, letters, they're all available, which we don't have for previous acharyas. So they're all helpful. That's the thing. Ready to start the Abhishek? Or you want more time? Okay. So then we'll end the Zoom meeting. Will continue. Zoom meeting will end now. Okay. You want to